How you been? How you been? You're looking fantastic, man. Every time I see your posts training and the gains that you're making, man, you're looking insane, honestly.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, it's uh just over a year now since having stepped off stage. It's been crazy watching Worlds this year and reflecting upon Worlds last year. And yeah, things have been good from a bodybuilding perspective. Thankfully, so long as you can do your bodybuilding, like it just gets done. Life, on the other hand, has been similar to last year, actually, not chaotic, just not ideal. So, like bodybuilding, Steve has been up here. Life kind of fulfillment, Steve has been like down here, unfortunately. But that's how life goes sometimes, and that will probably mean next year I'm not stepping on stage. I'll take another off season so I can live life a little bit more and keep bodybuilding Steve up here, but life Steve can be a bit higher.
Yeah, for real, man, because that's one thing about bodybuilding. It can take a lot of space, and especially during a contest prep, it's pretty much 24/7 bodybuilding, bodybuilding, bodybuilding. But life goes on, and it's funny. We just recorded a podcast with some friends prior to this one. We were talking that being a pro in the natural bodybuilding side of things, it just means that you get to pay a membership and you get to pay a little bit more to compete. You don't get paid actually, like I don't know, NBA professionals and stuff. So I totally understand your perspective, man. And for real, I hope things work out awesome for you.
Did you turn pro recently as well? Did I see that?
Yes, I did, but I did turn pro
Congrats.
in the INBA. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No, that's awesome. And I completely see your sentiment. It's like, I don't know. I think some people think going pro is like this. I don't know. In other professions, if you go pro, like it really means something. And whereas this is like, yeah, I mean, your other bros who compete get it. They're like, oh, amazing. Like you turn pro, that's huge. And it is. It means a lot to us. But it just means shows are more expensive, and we have to pay for a more expensive membership. You don't suddenly get all these like I don't know new client inquiries or kind of sponsorships from supplement companies and clothing companies. It's just like, hey, actually being pro doesn't really matter to them. They just want to make sure you can sell and have like a large social media following. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how you look.
Pretty crazy, man, because pro, well, in your case, it means that you have to travel more, which is more expense. Let's say for Worlds, if you were to compete next year, you will have to go to Canada. I don't know how expensive it's from UK to Canada, or at least the US, and that's what it actually means. Which is not, I wouldn't say a bad thing. I'm not complaining at all because it's pretty fantastic. But it's just it's what it is. Man. So you have to take something to give something, and sometimes bodybuilding it's not that something that you wanna give it more to, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In Canada, I mean, I needed an excuse to go, but unfortunately, I won't be there as a competitor, potentially there as a coach, if I can make things work out. And I have some athletes on my roster that I think will be getting to that point, whether professional or amateur. So I'll be quite excited together because I don't know if you've been to Canada, Daniel, but it's, yeah, I love it. It's such a cool place.
Well, man, I would love to. I would love to go to the UK, try some Sunday roast and several other
Yeah.
dishes. Yeah, those look fantastic, man. Yeah, and just before we begin with the topic at hand, how's your dog doing? I've seen your stories. I've seen the well the path that it's been going through. So how are things going recently?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. That's the thing that's kept life down
Right.
here because unfortunately she got diagnosed with lymphoma about not 6 months ago. I think it was about June, so not much longer than that. So it's been quite a long time actually since her diagnosis, and she was in a really bad way. She'd been a bit weird for a period of time. Like she is the most food focused dog you could ever imagine. So she wasn't eating her food, and so we knew something was up, and then she just started going downhill. And so they did a lot of investigative work and took her overnight and did a bunch of scans and obviously found the tumor in her stomach. And unfortunately, it's a type A, I believe, or like a type A2 or something very rare that dogs don't tend to get. And unfortunately, that means it's very severe and she is terminal. So we're not expecting her to survive for years, but we're trying to extend her life in the best way possible for as long as possible. So yeah, it's been hard, kind of in and out the vets regularly. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of time involved with that. and a lot of finances as well, which I just have to get my head round and try and I can't rationalize it. It's an irrational kind of response to basically what feels like your kind of child or part of your family like having cancer essentially. So yeah, it's been challenging and it has kept us from traveling and being away. But it looks like fingers crossed we can go to my partner's family for Christmas, and Ada, our dog, will be able to come with us for that, and she'll be into the new year, hopefully jumping and eating. She's been really well recently, but yeah, she's had a variety of different chemotherapy treatments, and it's so painful to see her suffer. And I've never had a dog. Have you had a dog before, Daniel?
I had several dogs. Nowadays, I have a cat,
Okay,
which is it's kind of a dog in disguise. My cat, he's kind of weird, but yeah.
brilliant. Maybe you get the best of both worlds that way. But yeah, so you know the pain, I imagine, of seeing them pass. And I haven't had a dog before. She was my first dog. I spend the most time, like over the last, she's 7 years old. We've had her 6 years now. Like she's the thing I've spent the most time with out of anything in this world. So like I am not ready, and I don't think I'll ever be ready to see her go. But we hope to have another 6 years of her yet. But unfortunately, not. That's how life goes.
It is what it is, man. But I'm sure she'll be fine. She has a loving and caring family, which a lot of dogs do not have. So I'm glad that she's had that. Well, let's say the chance to get proper treatment, proper nutrition, proper love and care. So I'm sure, and I hope things will be fine.
Yeah, in the best way. We rescued her, so I already felt like we did a favor in that regard, and she's been spoiled for sure.
Oh, you can be sure. But they tend to forget. I also rescued my cat, and they forget. My cat just doesn't. He doesn't seem to recall that he was in the streets, and he yells at me for food. And I don't know what happened there, but it's okay. I'll take it. No worries.
Yeah. Whoever's got the food, they're the person most important to me.
Yeah, and he forgets about me when other person have the food, right? So, Steve, my man, the topic at hand, particularly, I recall you uploaded a story, if I'm not mistaken, about one of your athletes, about the recovery process, and I've been digging into this topic. I actually enrolled in the JPS course in which you taught several classes.
Awesome.
I actually finished it. It was pretty cool. And the one about recovery, I think it's fascinating to me because as bodybuilders, as natural bodybuilders, the degree of, let's say, exposure to stress, to physiological and psychological stress that we go through during a contest prep, and especially if you want to be competitive, not just step on stage, but actually be competitive, it's quite severe, man. And I've seen some people that do not seem to return from a contest prep. Let's say they develop an eating disorder, they develop sort of hatred towards training, towards bodybuilding. And I think this is a key moment. Well, actually, beforehand, when we establish good habits, basically good habits, and after how to actually manage a recovery phase and the great importance that it is. But that's where I wanted to begin. What are, in your experience, both as an athlete and as a coach, the physiological demands and also the psychological demands of a contest prep? And how have you experienced it as an athlete and also as a coach? Because they're two different beasts and not particularly one easier than the other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think anyone who's been through a diet knows and has experienced quite a lot of these themselves in terms of both the psychological, physiological, psychosocial, all of those things, because you are restricting yourself and you're taking away something the body wants to have. And so you'll have experienced all the typical things in terms of hunger, food focus, lower energy, lower motivation. You may be even experience just feeling generally colder because the body's conserving energy and it doesn't want to kind of keep you warm. And so it's an easy way to ensure that it's not burning as many calories, and potentially by performance drops in the gym, mood disturbances, all of those things that are going on. I think I mentioned increased hunger, yeah, food focus, all those bits and pieces. You get that just any diet that you follow, you'll experience a lot of those. Bodybuilding, though, is extreme. Like many sports, if you're taking it to that level, and it just emphasizes all of these to a higher degree. So whatever you've experienced in like a general fat loss phase, you're now experiencing these like, I'm not going to say times 10, but they're upregulated for sure. And it does differ person to person. I do think experience helps, but some of them are just guaranteed. Like you are going to be hungry when you are getting down to single digit levels of body fat. It also somewhat depends, like I said, person to person, category to category. If you're doing men's physique and you hold a lot of fat on your legs, hey, you're in a prime position where your average body fat might be in the teens, but your upper body's nice and shredded and conditioned. I think it's a Chris Elkins, or I might be wrong in mentioning that, but I think he holds quite a bit of his body fat on his legs. So it's like, hey, like he can be competitive and feel healthy relatively and do men's physique, or some of the demands for condition aren't as high in, say, like a bikini competitor versus a female bodybuilder or a fit body. And then figure again can have a bit more softness. So it does depend kind of the level of leanness that you're getting down to. But like I said, when you're getting down to extreme levels of body fat, you are putting your body into a position it doesn't want to be in. So it has these natural instincts to upregulate things that are going to help survival. So like I said, it will try and encourage you to eat more. It will try and encourage you to burn less energy by being more lazy, to the point of which you'll have disturbed sleep, and then that has downstream consequences as well. So you feel all of that, and like I said, mood disturbance. So I don't know if you've seen this advert, Daniel, but the thought that always comes to mind is this advert for Snickers, and essentially it's like this guy getting into like a big fuss and a mood, and someone comes along and like, you're not yourself when you're hungry, and gives
Yeah.
them a Snickers. And I'm like, that is the best like description of what it's like when you're on comp prep, because you are just moody, and you also become apathetic. So you're moody, but you have mood swings, but mostly they're just like negative, like not happy swings. But you become less caring, less empathetic towards situations, which again, if you're in a relationship, or depending on your job, if you're an in-person PT, for example, that can be really challenging. Or you're like on the sales floor, like it's just hard to manage relationships at that point. I remember my first contest prep, I'd become a one-on-one PT at the time. And once I finished, people were like, oh, you're so different. Like, I thought you just hated me. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize I was that moody and that, like, just didn't care. So, yeah, you just having awareness of all those things is super important. And obviously, for males, testosterone goes through the floor because the body's like, hey, you're not in a position to kind of procreate. So, we're not going to keep your testosterone up. That comes down. You need to just focus on making sure you can go and get some food. And then the same for females, they can actually end up losing their menstrual cycle, very common. And it's unfortunate actually on the female side, they take a bit of more of a battering in that regard. And it is important to recognize men and women are different. Men are a little bit kind of more resilient to like this process, whereas because again, females are the most important part of procreation, the body protects that a lot harder. So to push them down and to lose their menstrual cycle, they need to be careful about recognizing it's gone and trying to get that back. So, yeah, there's some of the physiological, psychological things that go into, like I said, psychosocial. It's like, hey, eating out. A lot of cultures, it's very food centric. That can be really challenging. You know, a lot of some of my clients, like they go to their nans each week, or their grandmas, and she's used to giving them food and enjoying that, embracing it with everyone as a family. And it's like, oh, nan, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that because it's not quite aligning. At some point, you have to make those trade offs. And so it's really important before going into such a thing, you have an awareness of what to expect, because then it allows you to manage things going in and already have a plan coming out. Hopefully, I answered that question.
Yeah, for real. Many things came to mind. And actually, we did have that advertisement here in Mexico. They seem to translate it just the same. In Spanish, it used to
Yeah,
be, yeah, I remember that one. It used to be, no eres tú si tienes hambre, cómete un Snickers, which is basically the direct translation from you're not you when you're hungry, have a Snickers. So, man, I would love to have a Snickers bar
yeah.
in that context. Nothing I would love more. But something that it's funny is that some things, well, first I wanted to ask you if this was something that you experienced from your first get-go, let's say your first contest prep, because at least for me, I did. But the second time around, that we pushed the body fat levels even lower and my body weight even lower. And I thought I had experienced all this stuff prior, but this time around, I got to some, let's say, funny and odd experiences and some things that I really didn't like about myself, which I heard, I think it was Alberto Nunez talking about this, that it really tests you because we all think we're good people, right? When we're well fed, when we are well rested. But man, in this physiological and psychological condition, I was the, I think I was a shit person, man, honestly, because everything kind of made me angry. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to work. I didn't, but in a level that I think it was borderline psychotic. I don't know, man. But I wanted to ask you, did you experience this same degree of, let's say, metabolic adaptations and all these things that happen during a contest prep from your first contest? Or maybe this time around that you became actually a pro, and that's the leanest I've ever seen you, based on your photographs and video. Did you went a little bit farther from in that experience, in that bodily experience?
Yeah, great question. And I was nodding my head as you were talking me through that because I am the same way. I don't like myself at the end of a contest prep. Like I have to bite my tongue much more, and it becomes like my general nature as people pleaser, like very generally smiley and happy, like when I'm talking to people. Whereas I'd have to like force that out of myself, and it's almost the opposite. Like I'm just sat there with a resting bitch face all the time, hide away from people, don't want to interact. And unfortunately, this is one I have a regret from my prep because I do all my the walks for my dog, and I remember that I got the most like arsey with her that I've ever been. Where she's just a dog, like she's just being herself. Like she's going to pull on the lead, she's going to try and eat stuff she shouldn't eat. And I can remember times where I didn't harm her by any means, like I didn't do anything like you shouldn't be doing to a dog, but I just wasn't my kind, considerate self and patient self. I remember just going through dog walks and just kind of like not dragging her around, but I wouldn't let her sniff things. And I remember that, and I obviously partly because of what she's going through now, I'm very regretful of that being a good number of months where she probably didn't enjoy her dog walks as much. But it's just an example of how these things can happen. And yeah, unfortunately, I guess the first prep may have been my worst in terms of
Yeah.
these because I think I was quite ignorant going in. This was over 10 years ago now that I competed. And it'll be funny if you ask my partner this, who I'm still with, and we got together just before that first comp prep. Like she was all good for it. She was like, "Oh, you're looking better. You're looking leaner. I like this." But then I got to a point where she was not happy with how I was. She was like, "You just were not a particularly kind, nice person at that point, and you didn't really think to ask me about kind of how things were going on." And she said she was I don't know how close, but I'm glad we survived through it and we're still together. But yeah, she said that was not good. And there were times in which she really was like, I don't know, is this guy worth it? So yeah, thankfully I recovered from that and came out the other side. But I've definitely been much leaner than that now. But thankfully, I think I deal with getting pretty lean quite well. But those final bits of condition, like nothing. And this past season, like you said, I did get my most conditioned, and it definitely took me to a darker place that I haven't been before. And that was my most like it was just arduous. Like everything was hard. And that's partly why I wanted to bring Cliff Wilson in as my coach to see if
Yeah.
someone, especially at his level of coaching, could take me somewhere I wouldn't have gone. I think he did. I don't know what he thinks, but I'm not sure it was a good decision to take it that far. I don't think my physique looked actually better for it overall. I think it maybe took away some of my fullness and muscularity, which I can't lose, for a little bit more condition, but not sufficient. So I just need more muscle so I can kind of earn that conditioning a bit further away from being as kind of decrepit as I was. But yeah, so to answer your question, I experienced a lot of them in the first prep. Then this last prep took me to another level of like in the hole because as I think every bodybuilder probably agrees, you can always be leaner. Not that you necessarily should be leaner to be as competitive, but there's always more to come off because you just hold it. The body wants to hold on to it.
You framed it perfectly. It is a darker place. It seems glamorous. It seems glorious in social media, seeing it's almost a cliche natural bodybuilding nowadays, the shredded glutes. Like, this is the ultimate goal. But for some people, well, it really doesn't work out all that well. because all that implies, all that entails, you really do have to be on a next level of muscularity in order to pull that off, I think. But you segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about with you about this topic, which is education. You weren't aware that these things were already happening on your first prep, but when you do actually know, when you invest a little bit in education, or at least not formal education, but maybe through conversations like this, through podcasts like yours, I don't know, a lot of resources that we have actually free online these days, knowing what to expect, knowing what you're putting your body through, I think it can make a big difference. Not in the sense that you suddenly don't feel all these things because you're gonna and it's gonna suck, but at least you know that it's part of the process. That something really important and interesting is that it's not something bad. It's not your body fighting you. It's your body, which I think is quite poetic and actually kind of cute, but it's your body trying to keep you alive. It's pretty much what it is. How's your experience knowing with all the education that you receive, all the conversations that you have, working with Cliff also, that you were gonna push through that? Did it mentally prepare you, or still it was like a a heavy hitter?
Yeah, it's so funny because actually I had a literally had a check-in with a client today where we went through a diet and he was like, I learned so much during that diet because it's one thing hearing these things of how to go about dieting, but it's another thing going through it. Like he knew it was good to get low calorie per bite foods, but when he started his diet, he was eating a protein bar and he was like, now on reflection, that wasn't a great choice for dieting. And he was like, I discovered almond milk, unsweetened almond milk. It's super low calorie. It's like, yeah, some of these things kind of, you might know going in what to kind of expect, but actually experiencing it is a whole different ball game. I think about it similar to passing out. Have you passed out before, Daniel? Like blacked out?
Not that I can recall them.
No. So I've done it a couple of times. Normally when I'm sick and I get like the one I remember is getting sick, having a hot shower, and then sat on the edge of the bath, and then I woke up in the bath, like passed out. I was like, okay, that was weird. It's like you can tell someone what that kind of feels like. Actually, another time I did it was my first tattoo. They were like
Oh
starting, and
man.
I just was like, boom, and I woke up with him holding my legs. I was like, what's happened? So, oh, God damn it, my body just had this stress response led to me passing out. It wasn't that painful. But yeah, so it's one thing to experience it, and another one thing to hear it, another thing to experience it, and I think that's the same for this. You, you don't quite know what to exactly expect and how your body's going to respond. And especially as first timers, and you probably have it, Daniel, with some of your clients you take to stage for the first time, where they have the education, they've listened to the podcast, they know kind of what to expect. But as they're going through it, they kind of like, am I doing it right? Should I be feeling these things? They expect to feel it much sooner. Or even some people experience some of the extreme negatives of dieting when they're not even near contest shape, just because of their physiology is fighting them, because they're just maybe their lower end body fat settling point, or rather intervention point rather, is higher than another person's, so they feel the ill effects much sooner. So yeah, I think it helps to prepare you, but there's nothing like going through it and experiencing it to truly know. And every time you do it, you learn something. That's what I love about bodybuilding as a process. It's not something that you can just be. There's never perfection. You're always just striving for perfection. It's kind of pie in the sky thinking. Like the number of times I've changed my technique on various movements, thinking, "Oh, this might just help me get here," and then I'm like, "Ah, I didn't quite do what I wanted to," and I revisit an old technique. I'm like, "You're always striving and trying to progress forward because you're never knowing in that sense." And yeah, you have to have a large ego if you think you do. So it helps, but it doesn't give you everything. Like some of it, you just have to go through it yourself. And I think as a first timer, that's why it's so great having a coach in your corner, because they can recognize, like, if someone's starting prep and they're already massively food focused and struggling, you're like, as a coach, being like, oh, that's a large red flag. We've got months before you should be really experiencing this. Whereas if you go alone, you're kind of clueless. You're going in a bit blind.
That resonates a lot with me because, well, some of us, I'm guilty of this. When we're starting out in social media, at least speaking for myself, I wanted to be seen as the one in charge, the one that knows about these things because I work as a professor also. And I used to talk about this in podcast. Oh yeah, the recovery phase and people should do this and blah 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 without actually competing before. But now that I've done it, I've seen the great value that it is in actually experiencing these things, actually going through that really difficult sensations, through that darkness pretty much. Not as a, let's say, as a credential, or anybody that's competed that now can be a coach. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that gives me a little bit more of empathy, a little bit more, let's say, clarity of mind into what to expect, what can people actually feel like, how did I feel like when going through all of this, that just perhaps studying doesn't quite give you.
Yeah, and I'll even say my experience is not like everyone's post show as well. You probably have had this too with clients. Like I have had people who are very similar to myself, where they can be almost diligent to a fault post show, where if you just were like, just keep dieting, they just keep dieting, even though if they felt terrible, everything, the season's over, they're just like, hey, Steve, if you tell me to do that, I'm a robot. Like I'm just going to do it. That's kind of how I am. Like for a lot of the people, for example, this past year, my post show, or rather my show ended, and then we went to New York. We're having pizza, pancakes, like all I was like, I want to eat at this place, this place, this place, because these food bloggers have reviewed this food. It's like the best thing ever. So I was trying everything. But I can trust myself that I'm not going to binge and eat 10,000 calories. I can manage that. It's just I know it in myself. And I have clients who I know the same way, where they're just like, I can trust you to go to an all you can eat buffet post show and you actually control it. Like it won't be comfortable for you, but you're just that robotic that you can do that. Whereas I have other clients where if we put them in that scenario, it's a just asking for trouble, and they should not go on holiday until maybe a month, 2 months post show, because then they can actually have their body in a position where they it can be more in control. And I have to keep them on a tighter leash. I always think about post show as a bit like a dog on a leash, where like when you're in prep and towards the end, you have that dog on a really tight leash. You're controlling everything. Post show, some clients you can give a bit more length, others you can give less, and you have to control that because you need to give them some so they can navigate some situations themselves. Because if it's too tight, they're going to be in trouble and they're just going to pull you away and you're going to fall over and it's all going to be sorts of trouble. So you just kind of have to push and pull and know the client and what they can and can't handle, because it's all good and well. A lot of people will talk about like that post show meal, what you're going to have. For some people, that's totally appropriate and go and indulge and have a nice meal. But for other people, they might actually be better off in that situation being like, I'm just going home and I'm going to have steak and veg and some potatoes and a night in with my partner. And then, like, over the next days, I'm just going to eat more of the same food. And then, weeks down the line, that's when I can start introducing some of these more palatable foods. And that might actually be a better approach for them. And I think that's sometimes the issue with textbooks and not experiencing it yourself is, or having experience with others, is you think there's one way to do it. It's like, no, it's quite broad actually in terms of what you can do in this situation. So for some people, kind of 6 to 8 weeks post show being 5% above stage weight, totally fine. Like actually, they can do that. Other people might need to be at 10% over stage weight at that point. Other people might slightly overshoot that. It's unlikely you're going to be leaner than that, uh, unless you are, I don't know, a complete freak or in one of those very less conditioned categories.
You seem to be reading my mind because I wanted to actually discuss what to do in terms of, well, there seems to be two sides of the same coin. One goes to the set recovery diet, the 3DMJ, and the other side is the reverse dieting, which I think it's an unnecessary dichotomy because we need to understand what we need to accomplish by increasing our calories, whether if it's gradually or bump them right off the gate, like the recovery diet. But before giving you the microphone, I did the exact same thing that you did in New York, in Argentina. I did my research. What are the best places to eat? The best pizza, the best meal,
Nice.
Post show, I did the exact same thing. Boy, did I enjoy it. But to be honest with you, I don't think I was ready. I thought I was ready because, nah, I think I overdid it. And that's something that came as a red flag on myself that I need to be more cautious about it. But yeah, man, yeah, good memories about food came to mind
Yeah.
when you mentioned that about New York, which I'm assuming, I'm guessing New York is expensive, but a food paradise, I'm thinking. So anyway, I don't want to go on that tangent. Do you think it's unnecessary to think about what is better, recovery diet or reverse dieting? Because I think it comes from a point of not understanding that what we need to accomplish is to actually gain weight and not muscle. Like most people tend to think about the recovery process. It's
Rebound.
exactly, we need to gain fat, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly healthy. But how do you go explaining it to a client and perhaps even in yourself? What have you found that works best for you to increase them right out of the gate, or maybe go slowly?
Yeah, great question. And I could go on a whole tangent about the food in New York, my man. You're speaking my language. That was a very fun time. But yeah, in this regard, it's so interesting because I think actually, um, like going back in like historical times, the reverse diet was spawned because of an extreme, which was just post-show binging, where people would like, hey, I started prep at, I don't know, 180 pounds. I dropped down to 100. 50 pounds, and then within 2 weeks they're back up at like 190 pounds. It's like, oh man, you really overshot and you're way over fat now. You That's not a good move because post show fundamentally the body is forever throughout the contest prep been fighting you the whole way down there, and now you're like, oh, now I want to go back up, and so it's like, okay, we need to do this as soon as possible, like because you are in a bad state. You are, yeah, like it's hoping that we can survive this, and every part of you is ready to gain body fat and to gain weight, and ghrelin is through the roof, leptin is right down low, and you're not in a great position to take on the extra food either. So people get into such a bad situation, especially also with like water retention when they've pounded all the calories and it's like pizza, burgers, chips, sodium, and they're just like, oh, they have crazy edema, blood pressure problems. Like people can really put themselves in a bad situation. So it's kind of like, right, what's the solution to this? Right, let's slowly build people up. Let's just add, I don't know, 50 well, I've heard like, I don't know, 5, 10 grams of carbohydrates on like a week to week basis or something, and gradually see if we can reverse their calories up to a point where they might even be on more calories than you'd expect them to be, and they can still be really lean. But that kind of created a new problem where it was like, right, our first issue was you're getting over fat, and now you're staying shredded for no good reason. And when we think about, particularly for female physiology, you're extending the time of which they don't have their menstrual cycle, which is a key indicator of health. But for guys, if you're like dick skin lean, your dick ain't working, to put it very bluntly. So your testosterone's through the floor, and you need to get recovered. But you don't want to overshoot body fat because that's not healthy. But you also don't want to extend unnecessary time of being lean because you only need to be that lean for stage. So to then solve where the pendulum was over here, it swung to the reverse diet. I thought the recovery diet was like a middle ground. That's kind of the way I see it, where it's like, hey, we're not going to get over fat. We're just going to get fat enough. And we're not going to take months and months and months, but we're also not going to do it in a month. We're going to take a couple of months to get a good amount of fat on you where you can be 80, 90% recovered in terms of all those kind of reduced energy deficit type of symptoms, those diet fatigue symptoms you've been feeling. And that itself is still an art because that recovery phase, like I said, can look different person to person, um, depending on a variety of factors. So I definitely take the perspective of post show, we need food to go like up considerably, but a moderate amount, not an excessive amount. And if anything, that's the post show is when I want people eating the most food that they're going to be eating and then kind of reduce it from there. Kind of similar to when you start a diet, you can be nice and aggressive with the calorie deficit because there's a bunch of fat that needs to go and can go immediately. So you can take it on and not be at risk. Same at the end of a diet or at the end of a contest prep, rather. You've got the most fat you need to kind of gain and you're in the worst position. So let's put it on a bit more assertively initially to get lots of the recovery going, and then let's taper it off as we go. But that again can look different person to person. You've probably had it, and I actually had it with one of my clients this season where we'd kind of done that approach. We'd brought calories up quite high, but after a couple of weeks, it was becoming very clear that he was still experiencing like no improvement in diet fatigue. So I was just like, let's pump up your calories a good 300 just to like get a week at, yeah, it might be a bit of an excessive surplus to what might have been ideal on paper. And then after that week, assess. And we did that for 2 weeks. He was like, suddenly he was at that like 80, 90% of recovery. I was like, oh, now we can draw it back. So I think it's just important for people and coaches to realize that you, similar to peaking, but it's truncated, it's longer. You need to push, pull, assess, and be hands on with your clients in this phase, just like you were towards the end of the diet. It needs you to be hands on during that recovery phase and treat it with respect because, yeah, otherwise it could lead to all sorts of issues.
Totally. And I'm really glad that this discussion is being held more often in the natural bodybuilding circles. Because it used to be the off season and the on season. That's pretty much it. You compete and then you're primed for muscle gain, which is not actually the case. And the discussion, the acknowledgement of that we need to gain body fat, lose the stage look. It's actually good for you. It's actually good for your health, and it's actually what we are striving to do. Whether if it's gradually increasing your calories or bumping it right away. Perhaps at the beginning of a competitive career can be a tough pill to swallow, but afterwards, you're kind of let's roll with it because I don't want to feel like trash anymore. I don't want to feel like shit all the time and be rude to everybody. So, how do you go about having this discussion, perhaps with more first-time competitors or people that struggle to accept that this stage look is just for the stage? Other than that, serves no purpose at all. We need to recover, and that entails gaining body fat.
Honestly, saying some of the things you've just said there and just being like, hey, you know, that feedback you got from the judges where they said you need more muscle, which they always will say, well,
Yes.
you're not going to grow more muscle by staying really lean. And also, it's like you don't feel good. Like you're not feeling 100%. You want to feel your best again. And now we just want to start shifting our focus from the physique to performance because it's a weird time, man, because leading into that, especially like if you think about literally the peak week, I'm checking in with my clients towards the end multiple times a day. They're showing me their physique on show day. I'm seeing their physique multiple times a day. They're literally being assessed on that. They've been so obsessed, like you're contracting your glutes, checking in the mirror, am my striated glutes still there? And then suddenly it's like, whoop, none of that matters anymore. We need to like just let go of that. So it can definitely be tough accepting it, especially initially, because a lot of the time the fat comes on the core and it doesn't come on the extremities. And so the fat comes on a bit weird. And so you get really, really in your head. So I really just try and emphasize like setting goals for the off season, or rather, I like to call it the improvement season, like as soon as possible. So it's like, okay, judges' feedback was this. Our assessment of your physique is this. You need to improve XY muscle group. Let's create a mesocycle and generate like, and let's get progressive and let's focus on performance. I think that's why, at least a few years ago, it was a very much a trend for bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders in their off season to do powerlifting because it was like, that's just all performance based. It doesn't matter how you look. So I thought that was a great trend, but just apply that to your bodybuilding basics of, right, let's try and get your hack squat to whatever number of plates aside. Let's try and add size to your side delts. Let's check the physique less. Like, hey, we were checking in like at least every week. Now we're not checking your physique. I don't want to see it for a month. Like, I just don't care how you're looking. I care about how you're feeling. So I try and have those discussions with them. And also at the kind of start of prep, kind of talking through that recovery phase. But it is a week to week thing. And I do think this is where, as a coach, having experienced it yourself and your clients know you've done it, they kind of trust you then because they're like, well, you did it and you seem all right. So, like, I accept that your words are there, but it's really fundamentally what's going to drive you to be a better competitor in future, not how you're looking right now. It's thinking about how your performance is going to go. Let's focus on that. And the physique that performs the best might not be the physique you like the best look of.
Yeah, and I also think specifically by this point, after the season's over, I don't know if you yourself or some of your clients have experienced it, but this last competitive season for myself, I completely lost the love for training. I was hating the gym. It's Nowadays it's kind of funny to say it out loud, but usually, you know it better than anybody. Training is like the highlight of your day. The last weeks of my contest prep, that was the worst part of my day. It's like I don't want to train, I don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to see these people, I don't want to do any of this. So I think of good habits as a like a lifeboat, because after all this darkness is over, that's what actually kept me going to the gym, but with the focus in mind to just have fun, to just enjoy. Do you want to do this lift? Do this lift. It's okay. It's okay. We don't need to worry about anything else. Just have fun. And also, the step count on all the including vegetables. Well, now you are not on a leash. You can eat whatever you want. Why would I want to eat vegetables? Oh, because they make me feel good in the stomach. Why would I want to take a walk? Because it relaxes me. You know, looking at things from other perspectives, I think can be life saving. I don't know if you yourself again have this experience of completely going off rails in terms of your love for the gym, your love for the game, and having to have something that keeps you grounded, or maybe one of your clients. And how have you worked through this, man?
Yeah, dude, it's I hate it when that happens. I even hate to hear it from you because it's the same for me. Training is my absolute love, and I don't train to compete. Like I compete because I train. Like that's what we fell in love with bodybuilding with the gym. It wasn't we didn't put on like trunks and tan and just stand on
Yeah,
stage. It's like I should probably train. It's like no, you trained and then you did that because you're like, hey, I have a physique that maybe I can be competitive. And so to kind of have that taken away is yeah such a sad thing, and but very normal towards the end because training just gets so unbelievably hard and you don't get any of the kind of positive affirmations of my performance going up or getting a pump. It's like no, like, performance is going down. It doesn't feel great. Like it just kind of sucks and this is hard. And so I totally relate to you there. And actually, it's funny. Someone asked me recently, like post show, what do you recommend people do with training wise, like a deload or have time off or go into training? Like, I think it very much depends on the person. Some people are like next day, legs, they need to be destroyed. Like, I just got to go do that. And that's their kind of their thing. That's what I ended up doing. But other people, like they just need freedom. And I mostly with clients, I'm like, hey, go to the gym that week as much as you want or as little as you want and have fun in there. Try some stuff out. Don't put pressure on yourself. Feel out some exercises that you've seen online that are looking cool and you're looking excited to do. And then a week or two after that, we can start implementing some structure, getting you an off-season plan that's going to promote everything that we need to be improved for next time you step on stage, because yeah, just having that bit of a breather can be really stress reducing. Whereas when you're leading in, like you have numbers that you know you want to maintain, but it's so hard to maintain them, and you're like ah. So having that pressure valve kind of completely removed is really nice. And I thankfully have never experienced just kind of not loving it and kind of like I said, I'm a bit of a robot. So I've always just been to a fault though. Sometimes I need that kind of more free mindset of like, hey, don't be so just obsessive about just sticking to the plan. But one thing I think has definitely helped me become more successful at guiding my clients through that phase, where I think if we weren't doing this, and I've experienced it with clients before, where they kind of end up ghosting me, they fall off the face of the earth, they don't want coaching through that period of time. I think it's because we haven't set the groundwork leading into it in terms of habits that you mentioned, like having the veggies, having the protein, and making sure that's all part of it. And then when we include refeed days or diet breaks, they're still the same, structured, maintained. And one, you go in with all that habits in place and you keep them in place post show, it's such an easier transition. It's just like, hey, I'm basically eating more or less, and I'm removing posing or cardio and reducing steps. It's like fundamentally your lifestyle as a bodybuilder isn't shifting as much. Where it's kind of like when it's those extremes, it becomes a pendulum, and those extremes aren't good. So I think that's what's really helped me is working with my clients. A lot of the time, I've worked with them for like a year, 2 years, and then we go into their prep. So I've already got all those habits in place, and it's helped so much. Whereas, yeah, when in the past I've definitely had it with clients where unfortunately they kind of the, fall off basically.
it's pretty brutal, man. And with bodybuilding, it's kind of funny because we all strive to become pro, right? Both getting a pro card and getting the shredded glutes are like the ultimate. What happens after? Well, we don't know. We really don't know. Perhaps we're not gonna be world champs unless we look like Babacar. which, well, you have to choose the right parents. But that seems to be the most important goals for bodybuilders: the pro card and the shredded glutes. But what I'm going with this is that some people turn pro because they got the right genes, the right parents. They trained whatever, they ate whatever, but they just look unbelievable. And some other people have to be pros before going pro. I mean by that, taking your nutrition, your training, your recovery, your check-ins, all with the seriousness of a pro athlete. And I think that's something that we can also apply to the post-contest blues, depression, and all these things that happen, to actually act like a pro, not just have the pro card, but to actually act like a pro. And that's something I've taken a lot from you, Steve, because even before getting your pro card and the official recognition that you so well deserved, you're actually a pro beforehand.
I appreciate that a lot, my man. Yeah, it's I kind of view it for most people, it's sort of like getting a promotion at work. You almost have to do that job that you're eventually going to get promoted to before you get it. It just happens so often. It's like, oh, I've already been doing this job for 6 months. Finally, they're actually giving me the money for it. So I view it very similarly for most people when getting their pro card. You have to already be behaving and acting like a pro to be able to be rewarded it. And it doesn't guarantee it by any means, but I personally just get so much. It's funny you mentioned kind of the goal of all natural bodybuilders is not to quote you on this, but so for a lot of us, it was a pro card and getting shredded glutes. When I started, I was so ignorant to even competition. I had no expectations of even where I'd place. That was 10 years ago. Now, like teenagers know what to kind of expect. And I mean, the team competitors even now are, I wasn't a teenager, actually. I wasn't even a junior. I was 24 years old. So I wouldn't even be in those younger categories. But now there's guys at that level, like coming in with shredded glutes, and they have pro card, like the things that what they want to achieve. I think sometimes this can hurt them. One, because it can get them chasing shiny objects they shouldn't be. And ultimately, I think it just comes back to, why do we do this? Because we love the gym, we love taking care of our bodies, we love all the healthy parts of natural bodybuilding where it is found in the off season. Where it's the training, the resistance training, the pushing ourselves, the rewards that brings of that process, taking care to eat our kind of protein, our micronutrients, and all of those things, and respecting our bodies. And then the actual competition is quite short. So I think it's just important to embrace the process and enjoy that. And I don't know, for me, taking it something seriously is just really rewarding. I don't like the idea of half-assing something and going into it knowing you haven't given it your all. That doesn't sit well with me. I always want to give my best to things, and I think if you take that attitude, no matter the result, you're going to be proud because it's like, hey, I did my best, so I can't be mad with the outcome here.
Love them, man. That's what I used to tell myself. When all of this is over, would you be able to say I did my best? And if the answer was no, then I kept pushing to whenever necessary. If the answer was yes, okay, it's all good. You did your part. Go rest. So I think
Hell yeah.
bodybuilding can teach us, man, a hell lot of things about ourselves, about our spirituality, about our philosophy of life. But anyway, man, the last thing I wanted to touch upon, to be respectful of your time, because I think it's a really important thing to at least mention, is what can you say, because we're not psychologists, and this is a really difficult one, when people have binge eating episodes, because man, sometimes as a coach, as a nutritionist, as a trainer, we don't really have the necessary knowledge to guide people through all these episodes. What do you tend to say to your clients, maybe to say to yourself? And when would you say it's necessary to perhaps guide them to a psychologist? Because this can lead to very, very dark paths.
Yeah, man. I completely agree. It's something I say in my consultations every time. And if there's any clients who listen to this, they'll know I said this, where it's a case of I run through everything that they can expect with coaching. And I essentially say, I will do everything in my power to help you with your training, nutrition, anything in my scope of practice. But if it's outside my scope of practice, I will refer you out. So I'm very careful to work within my scope. And if I feel like it's getting to a point where I can no longer help, or it's yeah, not yeah, in my wheelhouse, essentially, I will refer out. So I think it's really important because I do think there's pressure for coaches sometimes to be everything. Like you should be a blood health expert, blood work expert, sorry, biomechanics expert. You should be a physio. You should be able to help them with injuries. You should be like, again, a nutritional, a dietitian. You should be able to help them through binge eating disorders or I don't know, gastric distress issues. It's like as a PT, there's a lot of things that kind of in our scope, but really it's fundamentally training and like basic nutrition. It isn't like these expert subjects. So whilst a lot of us have a lot of knowledge in those areas, definitely some of it starts getting out of our scope of practice and it's important to refer out and not really advertise those things as like, hey, I'm an expert in this. It's like, yeah, but do you have a degree in gut health or are you just saying I'm a gut health expert? But yeah, to your point, I definitely, first of all, again, like I said, as a consultation, I want to know beforehand if there's any red flags. So if I've worked with that individual, have we had binge eating episodes during just general fat loss phases? Why are those happening? Try and resolve them there. And then in a consultation, if we're starting contest prep, like I want to know about previous injuries or and eating behaviors. Are there any red flags there? Because if you get those two solved, so there's no binge eating going into a prep, I do think if you're a good coach, you should be able to squash binging happening as best as possible. The number of people or clients I have having binge eating episodes is no one off the top of my head, at least, has had a binge eating episode in their last preps of this last year or the year before that. And I think that's because of working with them for an extended period of time and making sure if there are red flags, kind of solving those at the time. But I've had people binge, and I do think it's also important to define binging because some people think, oh, if they just overeat a bit, they're a bit gluttonous. Like at Christmas, they have, I don't know, five roast potatoes, and it's like, and then they also have another five later. They're like, oh, I binged, I overate. I'm like, you just overate. You're just human. Like we're driven to overeat at times, especially palatable food. Whereas true binge eating episodes are like uncontrolled. They're not tracked in your MyFitnessPal. You kind of don't know what you've eaten. You've just gone kind of hog wild. Then that's where I'm like, that doesn't sound good. That we need to try and nip in the bud. So my first port of call is get them to food diary. So have a food diary when the binging is happening. Kind of note down what events happened. So what did you eat that day? Did you have something really palatable that kind of triggered you? Did you have like, I don't know, a really stressful day at work? Or did you sleep really poorly? Was there something that kind of led to that event? And then trying to kind of see what's the correlation. Can we start kind of reducing stress or filling a hole where it's like, hey, I binge every time that I see a biscuit on the side and I eat that biscuit. Can we try and put fruit on the side or something like that? So that's my first port of call, is trying to investigate via like a food diary of them being like, hey, what was going on in your head? What happened in your environment to lead to that binge? And then seeing if we can solve backwards from there. And if that fails, then it's a case of, I think at that point I'm like, hey, I don't I haven't got the skills to be able to help you through this. I think we should refer you out.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful and also practical, and also comes from a non-judgmental point of view. That is really appreciated because historically there's some coaches that, well, they talk ill about you because you did these things. You don't have discipline, you don't have self-control, but it's really tough to have self-control when you're in that position. But anyway, man, I want um I want to be respectful of your time, but I want to take the opportunity again because I recall I did it the last time we talked live. I just wanted to thank you, man, because your podcast, the Revive Stronger podcast, all the work that you put out constantly, rest assured, you've done your bit, man. It's been a game changer for real, for real, for real, for a lot of people, including myself, to actually reach out to people and do conversations like this. So, man, thanks for that as always. It's really appreciated. And also, I hope, well, one last question if you have the time. Did you go to Katz's Deli in New York, man? Because I'm so curious about that one in particular.
It was on the list. It was on the list, and we may have
And
actually knocked not knocked, I didn't knock on the door, but they have a bodyguard outside, and it was like 5 minutes before closing, and he was like, you're not coming in. And I was like,
yes, man.
seriously, like I was like, I'm on holiday in New York, we've walked miles to get here, please can we come in? He was like, no. I was like, damn it. So no, we didn't. But yeah, man, that deli looks unreal. And I just want to say thank you so much for the kind words. It means so much that it's helped people like yourself and to know that I could have at all helped with you and your journey and your content and what you're doing means the world, because I see the work you're doing and it's fantastic. So I couldn't be prouder for that reason. So yeah, we have episode 500 is coming out. It's the last episode of
God
this year,
damn,
which is
man.
pretty special. So people can look forward to that. It's going to be a banger.
I'm sure they're all bangers. I learned so much through your content, man. It's ridiculous. It's some of those podcasts is insane, man. It's like getting top access to a master class with some of the best in the world, including yourself, for free. It's like, God damn it, man. Why are not more people watching this? But anyway, I wish you, man, the best of Christmas, the best of New Year. I'm sure you and your family are gonna be all right. I do hope so. Thanks as always for taking the time. It's greatly appreciated because time for me is the most valuable thing that we can share with somebody. So thanks for that, Steve. I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon and looking forward to the 500 episode, man.
Thank you, and yeah, I wish all the best to you as well. Have a great holiday period, and thank you for inviting me on your show.
Appreciate it, man. Anytime. Have a great one.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.